Alright, all you listeners to the madness, music makers, video game players, entertainers, streetlight crusaders, and most importantly, any telemarketers that may call us within the next 45 minutes while we're doing this show, welcome to another edition of A Work in Progress. I am your host from the East Coast, as always, DJ Smokey, and man, oh man, this show is a test. Yes, that's right, folks. This is a test of the temporal Music Village Enterprises / headquarters computer that we have as a backup for a special plan that we've been actually thinking about for the past several years for Music Village. 'Cause just in case people thought we forgot, and no, we haven't, we've been thinking about doing a show in a certain park for the longest amount of time, but did not have the tools to do so. But thanks to my dad and a little bit of ingenuity and elbow grease, we finally managed to get a computer that has a working battery, and we're currently testing it as we speak. Yes, that's right, folks. We're currently testing this computer to see if it's up to snuff and make sure that it can be used for the said project we have planned, which is going to be called Music Village at Burnham Park, which I hope to see come off the ground most likely by mid to early July. Yeah, that's what we're going for, and hopefully there's no storms, no whirlwinds, no birds, no daddy long-legged spiders, but then again, I can only help one of the three things from happening, and it's not the daddy long-legged spiders, or the winds, or the birds. The storms. And speaking of storms, Maestro, Dan the Weatherman Stu did not tell us he tried to drive his car through a tornado watch that happened yesterday. Yeah, we didn't know this, folks. While we were doing the Tuesday night special, and we had no idea how dangerous it was until we heard the next day on the radio when we were listening to some cool tunes. We heard a report saying, how was yesterday for you guys out there? We had a little miniature tornado watch and, a little miniature light show to go along with it. They were all calm about it. I'm saying, wait a minute, there was a tornado? There was a tornado watch yesterday? And I asked my dad, and Dad usually with his answer said, well, I don't know. And I said, all right, well, he don't know, I don't know. I don't watch regular news channels because it's the same thing over and over again. So I looked up online and realized that we did have a tornado watch. Now, usually my weather news comes from my teacher, or the greatest teacher I never had, Mr. Logan, who would inform me every single time when something dangerous is about to come around the corner. This time, I got nothing. I need to, update my feed next time when he has one of those weather updates so I can inform you fans at home when some outrageous tornado or crazy storm is about to hit. And as a matter of fact, according to the Maestro, this test may be interrupted by a makeshift thunderstorm that will hit the area within the hour. And another thing I wanted to address to you fans at home, and it's something we almost forgot to mention, is that for uploading these episodes to YouTube, it's going to take a little bit of time to do. So when we announce that the episode's on the air for all sources, it will be for everything with an asterisk to YouTube, seeing the fact that it's going to take us about double the time it takes for us to create the episode to actually upload it due to the processing time? Yeah, I didn't know it was that hard or that bad for a YouTuber to actually upload something online, and depending on the speed of their computer, that's what time it gets uploaded. So, yeah. And speaking of computers, folks, besides the current test that we're currently on, the looming weather that's in the background, and not to mention the lifestyles of the digitally rich and famous that will take place this Friday for Music Village, another idea that we were hoping for this computer in the near future is that a certain guy that goes by the name The Bad Guy JX Harris if we're able to get him on the horn, another project we have down the tubes is to have him on the show. Because not only he is very knowledgeable about wrestling outside of the world of, New Japan and WWE, he actually predicted several things that was going to happen in the world of wrestling prior to it happening. Which was not only the whole Cody Rhodes thing with the Bullet Club, but also the whole thing with Shinsuke Nakamura, and I do believe the whole thing with him winning the Royal Rumble too. Yeah. I think he has some form of tarot card, crystal ball thing going on there too with that. And in a small update and more or less video game news now, since we're going to try to shift gears here, it appears that Dead Thing 79 is once again back at it, creating more characters on the list. And so far, he has revealed, besides an updated look for Melinda Rhodes, I do believe creating Jack Nomad, which was one of my favorite characters he created, besides creating Leon Corella and the wild card himself, Spade. I do believe he created some big, oversized guy who looks like he guarded a Texas steakhouse, but I can't remember his name clearly, but I think it's one of his new characters, and I can't wait to see him fight in the ring. And from the footage the Maestro just showed me of him powerbombing Sid Vicious like it was nothing, yeah, that guy is frightening. Really, really frightening. Not to mention, reminds me a little bit of the guy who replaced Bane in that said show of Batman Beyond. Yeah. With the exception that his hair is not jet black, he has a goatee, and, look like he was in the Arnold Classics for the last 20 years. Yeah, doesn't look like that though. And in other video game news, besides Dead Thing 79, or Dead Thing 79, because apparently according to Maestro I said Dead Thing, and I don't think he's a singer at all, but besides that, other news, folks, for Up Up Down Down, and something I really wanted to talk about for the longest amount of time, they recently had for the Battle of the Brands their Royal Rumble. Yes, that's right, folks. For the game, I think it was SmackDown vs. Raw 2006, they recently had the Royal Rumble mode for that, where Prince Pretty would walk away with the said Royal Rumble win, with none other than John Cena. Now, the thing that blew me away about all this, folks, is the fact that it was down to Batista and John Cena. Now, for anybody who's a fan of wrestling out there who remembered that back in 2005, the lead-in toward WrestleMania 21, the last two entrants in that Royal Rumble were John Cena and Batista. Now, granted, in that version of the Royal Rumble, both men got eliminated. Vince tore both his quads and got hurt, and they had to reset the Royal Rumble match where Batista would end up winning. But in this case, it would be, 7 FUs, then a Batista bomb, and a whole bunch of strikes in between of 5 knuckle shuffles, modified power bombs, and even a bulldog that got rid of the animal for John Cena to win the whole thing. Now, during this said Rumble, Austin Creed was a little upset about the whole thing, kicked both Prince Pretty and the space cat Athena herself, Ember Moon, out of the room and told everybody to shut the cameras off, and was really upset about the fact that Batista, who originally won the Buried Alive match back at Survivor Series, did not get the number 30 spot. Now, I know he said that if anybody commented on the comments below for the Battles of the Brands, giving away any spoilers, he would have actually banned them, but I wanted to discuss this just a little bit, because I do remember the fact that my sister did win that Buried Alive match and was given the number 30 spot, but it wasn't guaranteed to The Undertaker when she beat me when she picked Tajiri. You actually had to pick the superstar himself to be at number 30, to be number 30 in the said Rumble. And not to mention, since they wanted to actually simulate the whole thing or actually watch it live, and they couldn't change the characters over, yeah, that posed a little bit of a problem for them for the said Rumble. So Triple H got number 30, Batista got number 27, I think it was. I think 27 Batista, 26 was Kane, and I think Jericho was somewhere sprinkled around. But yeah, any way you look at it, Batista got the number 27 or 29 spot and still lost the Rumble, which was a number that they say in the statistics every single year for the Royal Rumble is a guaranteed win, but not for the animal. Now, for the ratings so far for the Battle of the Brands, I'm pretty sure that Prince Pretty is ahead by well over 6 million fans, and I do believe it's pretty much an open shut case for Prince Pretty to win the Battle of the Brands. But for Austin Creed, he has one more pay-per-view left up his sleeve in the form of No Way Out, because I do remember in 2006 that pay-per-view still existed, but he still has no way out to somehow recover from that devastating loss of the Royal Rumble. And not to mention, he got 500,000 fans despite losing that Royal Rumble match. So either way you look at it, there's still a high possibility for him to get well over 6 million fans in the course of the next 2 months before heading to the grandest stage of them all of WrestleMania 22. But do I think that he's going to end up getting all those points to win? Well, as long as he doesn't try to build up Danny and Doug Basham for his little rivalries in his season mode, he may have a chance. And not to mention, he can capitalize on the fact that Batista got screwed out of the number 30 spot by Triple H. The writing sets up itself. Hopefully it actually works so he can actually build that rivalry long enough for Triple H to fight against Batista at WrestleMania 22. And the irony, if he does go along with it, is going to be absolutely incredible. But I think for the universe mode that me and my sister did, what we did back in the day for the main event that my sister won thanks to that Buried Alive match, I think the main event we had was 2 of our created characters going at it for the first time ever in their careers, which I think was this big burly guy that she created called Sheriff, and an egotistical maniac that she created but I made the moves for, known as Ace, going one-on-one for the World Heavyweight Championship. Now, granted, that was the only 5-star match I would ever get, but since my sister had 9,000 fans to my well over 1 million, she won. Clean. And beat me outright. And she picked SmackDown while I picked Raw. Now, I originally wanted to be Raw, but my sister said that SmackDown was a better brand, and back in the day, it really was. Especially with their tag team division with Paul London and Brian Kendrick. Because I do believe they were the longest reigning tag team champions in SmackDown history with about 11 months on their reign. And unfortunately would break up due to the whole Umaga 2-on-1 battles that they had, where Brian Kendrick would turn into the Brian Kendrick, with probably one of the best wrestling themes I've heard in a long time with the man with the plan. Now, I know he's currently on 205 Live. I need to watch that more often, but I really wish he would bring back the Kendrick dance that he used to do when he used to come down the ring with Ezekiel Jackson. And by the way, Maestro, do you know what ever happened to Ezekiel Jackson? Last time I saw him, he was in TNA, or I think it was Impact at the time, along with Gene Snitsky as a bodyguard for Dixie Carter. Now, unfortunately, I don't know where they went since then, probably on the independent circuit, but I wish to see them wrestle again, especially Ezekiel Jackson. Now, to switch gears from the whole incident that happened with the Battle of the Brands, another thing that I wanted to touch on from Up Up Down Down News is the fact that Kofi Kingston, and we did say this on the edition of Under the Radar, is currently your 24/7 champion, currently the up, down, down champion, and currently a dual champion as well. But I still miss the reign of Jack Gallagher, and not to mention the different forms of poetry slams that he used to do to his opponents after he won. I mean, it was some of the most vicious burns I think I've ever seen, and he did it with class and elegance, which made it a little bit worse. Now, I wish in the near future that him and Fighting Thumbs, aka the Brian Kendrick, would get in some form of matchup between each other on the sticks. Cause can you imagine the insults and the mind games those two could play on each other? It would be incredible. It really would. And now, another thing I hope to see in the near future for Up, Down, Down has to be another one of the Madden tournaments that they had, so the champ can get back his title of being the Up, Down, Down Madden champion of the world. Because I think he got gypped at one time when he tried to wrestle against, actually not try to wrestle, when he tried to play against, I keep on forgetting what his name or his nickname was, but it was Jason Jordan that he lost to in the first round of the Madden tournament, which was incredibly sad. I mean, I didn't have a money bet on him. I had hope that he was going to win. But I know several people who did have money on the champ becoming a 4-time champion in the world of Madden. Now, still don't know the reason why they didn't decide to do another Madden tournament last year, but fingers crossed that with the next Madden game, they decide to do one. I really hope so. And with that said, folks, I think it's time for us to read some of the leftover questions that we promised to read for a work in progress a while back ago when we were supposed to do this about a week ago, but unfortunately we had a couple of things to handle behind the scenes. And the first question reads, Dear DJ Smokey, what is your greatest fear before you head on to the microphone? Well, the one fear that I do remember having while being on the microphone back when I was in school was always the sound of my voice. And the fact that some people, and it's happened more often than less, would confuse me for a girl than a guy. And one classic example of this that I can laugh about now is when the telemarketers call in and I answer the phone saying, yeah, so-and-so is not here right now. And they would say, well, ma'am, could you make sure you leave a message? And I say, ma'am? Well, sir. And it was a woman on the other line, so I said, sir, please tell whoever's on the other line that I'm a sir, not a ma'am. Now, I don't know why in the world I decided to go all old Victorian with the response, but either way, we had a little bit of a good laugh and a 5-minute conversation on why my voice sounds so weird. And that still is a fear of mine to this very day, and I can't get over it. I mean, granted, I know my voice sounds a little bit weird. I've gotten used to it over the years, but still, over fear of mine before I head on to the microphone. I may get over it one day, but till then, we're a little bit on the fence. Another question that we got says, Dear DJ Smokey, and I think this might be an old one, but we're going to read it anyway, and it says, what does the 3MR stand for? Oh, alright, well, 3MR, for those who don't know, when the first episode of the Indie Radio Arcade hit, we decided to do a segment on there called the Movie Magic Matinee Review. But we originally were going to call it the full title of it, and instead we decided to call it the 3MR to save room and space for the little title bar on the bottom of the screen, because we know there's only a certain amount of words that can fit down there, and especially depending on the movie as well. So yeah, it saves a little time, a little space, and not to mention it's a pretty cool title name too. Not to mention, for some strange reason, it reminds me of that old film that they used to have for photos that Yeah, the old film photos that they used to have. I think it was Fujifilm that used to have that 3M on it. I could be wrong, but I think it was Fujifilms that used to have that for the longest amount of time. So if you also want to say we got inspiration from that little masterpiece, we did. A little bit. Another question that we got says, Dear DJ Smokey, what sort of plans do you have for this summer? Well, besides recording shows and doing a whole bunch of fun things with you, the fans out there, not much. I don't have plans to go to the beach, no plans for no fancy cookouts, because chances are my father's gonna throw that into left field and have some big extravaganza, and I hope he invites the band Avenue G, which, by the way, they said that they're currently working on an album as we speak, so if they do come around, they will be probably the first people we interview for the summer concert series that we got planned for Music Village, that may start by the end of June to replace the Dog Days of Summer, which unfortunately as of this year, or as of last year, was the last year we're doing the Dog Days of Summer until we have some more funny summer stories to talk about. But we may bring it back for a little miniature version of it in August. Who knows? It depends on how good the summer goes. And another question that we have up that was related to our vacation says, Dear DJ Smokey, I'm glad you decided to go on the microphone for these episodes. They've been funny. Thank you. And would go on further to say, but what if you made the decision not to be on the mic? What would you do then? You know, we thought about it for the longest amount of time if we didn't decide to go on the microphone and make that big announcement on the last week of May, or actually the last week of April, I'm sorry. Time is very confusing for us with shows, but yeah, if our major decision, if we decided not to do shows, what we were gonna do was neither do little small time jobs around the block or whatever it may be, and tried to earn up enough money by doing odd jobs to actually upgrade Music Village headquarters just a little bit to bring you guys more entertainment at home. And most likely write down more ideas for shows and even play some games with some friends of ours during the break to get our mind off of not going on the microphone for a possible 4 to 6 to a possible 8-week stint. And yeah, to be away from the microphone that long was definitely going to be unacceptable, especially for this year with how many crazy and fun ideas that we had off the top of our heads. And speaking of ideas, Maestro, with that idea book, did you come up with a video game story that we could do to wrap up this vacation for this month? No? Yeah. A little dilemma that we ran across, folks, that we wanted to bring to your attention right now, and that's the fact that we are still trying to find out what video game story that we're gonna do to wrap up this vacation for this year, and one of them was gonna be, and I'm not sure if it's a Nintendo game or not, one of them was Sunset Riders, another one was Double Dragon, and I do believe the third one was neither this arcade racing game that we played for the longest amount of time that we don't remember the name of, but we will find out by Music Village this Friday, and another game was this old Sega shootout game that involved police force that my Uncle Denny had that once again, we don't remember the name of, and we will find out by Music Village this Friday. Yeah, a lot of unknown games with unknown titles, but we do remember moments from them that will be mentioned for Music Village this Friday if we can figure out the names of them. And when we do, we might leave it up to you, the fans at home, or the Wheel of Misfortune to decide what cool game are we going to mention for our final video game story before we head into the month of Extreme. Which should be very interesting. And Maestro asks me right now, are we going to do a whole arcade thing for next year's vacation? And no, I don't think so. I don't think we played that many arcade games actually mentioned on the show. Unless you count Dig Dug, but we already said something about that. So, I mean, there's always Marvel vs. Capcom, and the fact that my sister cheat with Captain America and that shield. I don't care what anybody says. The fact that you can block the photon cannon with a shield that is about as big as a hubcap is impossible to me. Especially with the fact that his head, a little bit of it, is sticking out when you fire the photon cannon in that game. It makes no sense. I never understood that. And while we're talking about games, folks, we almost forgot to mention that as of recent dates, and I keep forgetting the name of the guy online, I think it's Nilioh? Nilio? Not too entirely sure how to say his name, but we like to give him thanks for helping us beat out the video game known as Dragon's Dogma, and also teaching us how to use certain classes in that game. Yeah, very helpful advice, especially with the mage, teaching us that it's more or less a game of checkers on how to beat certain opponents for that game. And yeah, I think we somehow managed to beat Death with the mage class too, which we really thought was impossible. So thank you, Nilio, which somehow sounds like the cereal that we mentioned during one edition of the Indie Awards that we had about 2 years back. And oh, another thing we would like to mention on this show now, even though it's a couple of months in advance, we decided to include a brand new award for the Indie Awards along the lines of the House of the Year. Yes, that's right, folks. For the houses that we talked about for the lifestyles of the Sim Digitally Rich and Famous, which the title is still a work in progress because we still can't say it right, we're going to include one of your houses to be awarded the House of the Year. Or Residence of the Year. We're still working on the name of the title for the award too, but yeah, because of your creativity, we're going to include that for the Indie Awards next year. Yeah, next year. I had to think about it. I looked at the calendar. I said, yeah, definitely next year. And aside from that, folks, we also decided behind the scenes to go back to play a game that we didn't get a chance to play because we bought it at the same time as when we did for Dragon's Dogma, and it was along the lines of Kingdoms of Amalur Reckoning. Now, originally, we were going to play the original save file that we had featured for it, but for some strange reason, when we downloaded back all the DLCs and everything else and the kit and caboodle that we had for the game before we decided to give it to our sister before our heads exploded by not only trying to hunt down dragons in one game, but fight spiders in another, our save file mysteriously said that we did not have all the DLCs downloaded, and most importantly, when I tried to talk to EA about it, they gave me an expired code and said that my save was corrupted. And I searched online for the longest amount of times for some form of solution for this, but unfortunately, yeah, nothing. But on a silver lining note from all this, folks, even though that the save data got destroyed, we were able to actually surpass what we did for the save data and come up with something even cooler. Yeah, it's something that I'm going to be extremely proud about once we beat the main version of the game, and the maestro's shaking his head because we actually started with the DLCs first, and now it's going into the main part of the game at level, 14 or 15? No, Maestro's shaking his head and saying that it's 20. Right. So there will be a video game story, most likely for the Summer of RPG for that game. And I do believe if we have a week somewhere in for next month, we will be mentioning a video game story for the Ballad of Gay Tony for the Summer of RPG as well. See, for those who listen into a work in progress, besides all the random ramblings that we do for this show, we do plan out shows and different video game stories that we reveal to you for this said show. That's the reason why we only do it once or twice a month, because we usually have to sit down and get a pen and paper, write some of this stuff down that we're talking about, and actually store it so we can remember to actually do these video game stories. So basically, these shows are a giant memo pad besides whatever sort of random thoughts that we have lurking in our brains. Like, for example, why in the world is the song One More Time in Seal's Amazing not in a mashup mix-up form? I mean, I've been looking for the longest amount of time for a DJ from a nightclub to actually mash those two songs together. Never happened. Oh yeah, also the song Clint Eastwood and the theme from The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. I would love to see especially one of those house DJs go out there and actually mix those two songs together. I might have to do that myself. Yeah. As a matter of fact, that was actually one of the things we were going to do during our vacation besides practicing on the microphone, is actually tried to mash up a couple of songs that sounds like they would actually work together for one huge song. Yeah, I just gotta figure out where in the world I left that USB turntable that I had. Don't know where in the world I put that thing. I might have to find it later on as we continue our spring cleaning that is way into the points of somewhere near summer. Yeah. And before we scramble out of here, folks, and before Maestro rings the bell because he's giving me the 5-minute cue, we also like to update you on what's going to happen for this weekend for the Indie Radio Arcade. Since, you know, we don't really advertise the Indie Radio Arcade that much on Twitter or on our Tumblr pages or any of those other pages that we have, we might as well tell you guys at home that not only we're going to be doing a 3MR review for the movie Rush Hour, and hopefully for the next 3 or so weeks heading into the month of Extreme, we'll be reviewing the next 2 sets of Rush Hour movies to go along with it, heading directly into Bad Boys. And also, we will be doing an instant classic video game review for the video game Sonic Adventures 2. Since we completely forgot that every single milestone episode we hit for any show will be accommodated with a Nintendo sort of game. And yes, we did play the GameCube version of Sonic Adventures, so it counts. And plus, not to mention, Phantasy Star Online was also a GameCube game along with a Dreamcast and other systems, but still, we're counting it. And alongside with that, we will be doing an outside-the-box review for the first time in well over 2 to 3 months for the video game Jalopy. And if you didn't get it for the Humble Bundle that they had this past weekend, you're definitely missing out because it's an absolutely fun game. And not to mention, there were several incidents that almost made us want to do a video game story for it the second it happened to us, which tells you how cool and fun and insane this game could be. And alongside with that, besides our usual $64,000 question, which we're still thinking about, the perfect question to end off this vacation, or to start off the month of Extreme. Oh yeah, I forgot. The 80th episode is on the first day of June. So we need to come up with a question that's extreme, which is not going to be that hard for us because most of the silly questions that we have, folks, are just a little bit on the wild side. So yeah, we got something planned for that. And we also, like we said, for the Tuesday night special, for those who missed it because it came on at around 3 a.m. in the morning, we will be mentioning well over 20 high scores for the Indie Wall of Fame. Now, we originally were going to mention about 20 games to go along with the 20 high scores to make it even 40, but yeah, because of the time restrictions, I don't think we're going to be able to pull that off, and that, I don't think there's 20 games on the site that we could mention for the said part of that show. But we might try. I don't know. Hey, anything could happen. We mentioned 5 for Friday. We mentioned 20. We'll have 25. Great way to end the month. Or wait, actually 5 to end off the month, 20 to start it. Still sounds like a great idea. And Maestro and the PR department, who are currently here right now, are giving me a little bit of a thumbs up to go through with that idea. All right, I might do it. Who knows? We might change our minds, and when you hear the Indie Radio Arcade, we might do more games than that, because we really do love mentioning your independent games. Trust me, folks, when I say this, we really do love mentioning your games, and not to mention a way to give back to the indie gamer at home, or wherever sort of studio you're trying to do these sort of independent games in. Oh! And with that, folks, Maestro once again has rung the miniature bell that reminds me of the old school I used to go to in Dover, which means it's time for us to wrap things up and bring this episode of A Work in Progress to a close. So we would personally like to thank you, the fans out there, for listening in to this show and all the crazy randomness that came with this makeshift test episode that will be uploaded to YouTube, and not to mention all of our other pages along the lines of SoundCloud, Tumblr, and Facebook, which is all named the same, only known as Music Village Radio under the hashtag A Work in Progress 11, which for some strange reason right now reminds me of Apollo 11. I don't know why I would get that. Oh yeah, because of the number 11. Yeah, right. And for our YouTube page, folks, you can check out that episode on our YouTube page known as 00 Agent 0012. Unfortunately, we couldn't put the D in front of it because somebody already took it. Or can we change that? We'll check it later. And finally, if you want to figure out what other crazy and zany things that we still got planned for the remaining days of this Maycation before we head into the month of Extreme, make sure you head on over to our Twitter page, only known as the 00 Agent 0012. And not to mention, we will try to update you guys on a regular basis from now on, and even show a couple of stunts of the week to truly spicing up the month of Extreme that is going to be upon us within the next couple of days. Because I should have been uploading them after Under the Radar, but by the time the show's over, which is sometimes 2 or 3 in the morning, we actually have to get prepared for the Tuesday night special with a couple of things like trying to remind Dan the Weatherman Stu to show up on time, which is very time costly, by the way. But we will try to upload those stunts of the week for you fans out there, along with show news with it. And we would also like to thank you, the independent artists out there, for, as always, delivering that musical goodness like you always do. And keep up the great work, guys. And we can't wait to hear what other cool songs you got coming down the tubes. And we would also like to thank, besides those independent artists, our musical guest, as always, Tekno AXE, with his song Streetwalk Manifesto that was featured for the intro and for the outro for this week's edition of A Work in Progress. And not to mention, another big thank you for this past week's Under the Radar for that song that we used to actually bring out Under the Radar, which sounds similar to the song we regularly use for that show. So yeah, definitely gave us some inspiration for this week, so we like to thank you and hopefully give some inspiration to you back or to anybody who decides to listen into this show. And finally, last but not least, and yes, Maestro, I know it's raining, I see the lightning, we're about to wrap it up. We would like to thank you, the independent gamers out there, for delivering all those sweet, sweet games or gaming advice that we had a chance to talk about during this said show. So keep on gaming, game on, keep playing with the said controllers, and coming up with cool ideas to give us inspiration for the week. And with that strike of thunder, folks, I'm DJ Smokey, flanked by the maestro as always, saying, when there's smoke, there's fire. And see you next time when we come up with another bunch of random hodgepodge topics to talk about as we try to figure out yet another work in progress. But until then, see you guys next month, and good night, everybody.
Walk down the street, saying hello to the people I meet, and I'm killing my love underneath the sun, triggering down like the smoking gun. Yeah, I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. Walk down the street, saying hello to the people I meet, and I'm killing my love underneath the sun, triggering down like the smoking gun. Yeah, I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby. I ain't got no plans, just a rusty voice and an empty gas can. My car's broken down a mile behind, and I've got my life set on rewind, baby.
Yeah, this is my Mixcraft.